Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says he will not comply with expected subpoenas from the January 6th commission, calling the congressional group investigating the Capitol riot a, quote, partisan sideshow. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump has sent a letter to Raffensperger asking him to consider decertifying the 2020 election results. According to reports, the former president claims to have evidence of large-scale voter fraud. Former Senate candidate and founder of Our American Dreams Public Action Committee, Sarah Riggs Amico, joins us now to discuss. Welcome, Sarah.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
And so at what point is Raffensperger going to decertify the Georgia election for President Trump to facilitate his reinstallation as president?
Never. Not only has Secretary of State Raffensperger made that exceedingly clear, even as a Republican Secretary of State, but remember here in Georgia, we had not one, not two, but three recounts, including a full hand recount of over 5 million ballots in this state. So the president, Joe Biden, is the rightfully elected president. We were very proud to deliver those 16 electoral votes for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden here in Georgia. Donald Trump lost fair and square.
Yeah. Do you think certain elements of the Republican Party, the MAGA movement, Trump's most loyal supporters, are they ever going to be able to let this go?
You know, I'm not sure, but it's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is Joe Biden won the state of Georgia. He won the presidency in November of 2020. We also, remember, showed that Democrats had won the state yet again on January 5th, 2021, when we picked up not one but two U.S. Senate seats with Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, giving the Democrats united government, a majority in the U.S. Senate, if even by the thinnest of margins. So, you know, it's not relevant whether or not they believe it. These are the facts as they stand. And for most of Americans, we still believe that facts are objective. And, you know, I will say, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think, and it's my belief that Trump's refusal to accept the outcome actually helped Warnock and Ossoff by making his base not less interested in turning out, thinking it was rigged, still being interested in litigating that aspect of the election, which then has been a disaster for Republicans because now again, by the thinnest of margins, it's possible for Biden to implement his agenda. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's certainly an ineffective strategy to tell your own voters to stay home from the ballot box. But I think we have to not let the Republican Party off the hook here. The fact of the matter is people like Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger were also part of empowering the Trump monstrosity of a presidency in the first place. These were people who, up until November of 2020, were in fact supporting Donald Trump. So, you know, what I'd like to hear from people like Brad Raffensperger is not just that he did his job and told the truth that Joe Biden fairly won the state, but I'd like to hear him apologize. I'd like to hear other Republicans apologize for the part that they played in creating the big lie. That the seeds of the big lie were sown many, many years before November 2020. We know that in 2012, Donald Trump was questioning the outcome of the election. We know that he was questioning the birthplace of President Barack Obama. He has been lying for a very long time. And it wasn't until after Donald Trump lost the election that many of these Republicans turned on him. That's not exactly a profile in courage. And for Brad Raffensperger to call the January 6th Commission investigating a violent insurrection in the seat of government in this country a, quote, partisan sideshow is a little bit hard to take for those of us who live here in Georgia, where Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger launched over 250 investigations based on spurious claims of voter fraud that he himself has said are not true in the state. So I suppose you could look at it as he would know a partisan sideshow when he sees one, because that's exactly what his office used to launch those 250 investigations last year.
And so Jon Ossoff, who you ran against, is serving a full 6-year term, but Raphael Warnock is up again in 2022. And what's your read on the ground in Georgia, and what influence is all of this Republican infighting over the legitimacy of the election having on Warnock's ability to get reelected? Could this end up benefiting him in the same way that it benefited him in 2020, as Robbie mentioned?
Senator Warnock is in an excellent position for reelection. You know, the Reverend has shown that he is one of the most effective freshman senators we've seen in modern history. He's capable of working across the aisle, even with Ted Cruz, when it comes to infrastructure. But at the same time, he's capable of speaking truth to the Republican colleagues in the Senate who need to hear it when it comes to issues like voting rights. And certainly, it doesn't speak highly of the GOP's bench here in the state of Georgia that they had to go to Texas and recruit someone to run for the U.S. Senate against him. So I think Warnock's chances of reelection are excellent. And in fact, I think whether you are Republican or Democrat, or like many Americans, somewhere in between, depending on the election, we here in Georgia know that Senator Raphael Warnock is delivering consistently for the people of this state, everywhere from Savannah down on the coast up to Marietta, where I live, and everywhere in between.
Warnock's biggest policy proposal this term has been what they call a kind of mirrored Medicaid expansion. You know, it would basically allow red states whose Republican governments have blocked a Medicaid expansion to get access to a version of Medicaid money. It would expand coverage to hundreds of thousands of people in Georgia, and it is a central component of this Build Back Better agenda. It's in the reconciliation package. We'll see if it survives. How important do you think it is for him to actually be able to implement that and deliver it? Like,
I think it's
and is it getting a lot of coverage? Is it getting a lot of coverage in Georgia that this money is potentially on the table?
It is. And look, this is not a new issue. I have the great fortune to be the Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor in 2018, running alongside Stacey Abrams. And we campaigned heavily on this issue of Medicaid expansion. And what Senator Warnock and other Democrats in the Congress have done is move it to where it is 100% reimbursement to the states to expand Medicaid. And here in Georgia, that could mean almost 700,000 Georgians have health insurance who don't currently have it. And the extraordinary thing to me is that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and there are still Republicans fighting expanding Medicaid. Expanding Medicaid will help save our rural hospitals. We've lost 9 rural hospitals in recent years. It'll provide coverage to almost 700,000 Georgians. And by the way, that gap, when I ran in 2018, was a little under 500,000. So the gap is growing tremendously. We're in a global pandemic. It is free money to the state. In fact, it is bringing Georgia taxpayers' money back here to our state to take care of our people. Remember, these are federal tax dollars that Georgians have already paid. And all Medicaid expansion does is bring that money back here to shore up our healthcare system. And Lord knows we need it.
Sarah, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Next on Rising, Marianne Williamson is here to give us her take on Stephen Donziger's sentencing. You won't want to miss it.